What next for Putin and his regime? Vladimir Putin has formally annexed the 4 breakaway regions of Ukraine into Russia and declared its citizens Russian, now and forever. He did this during a large-scale rally outside the Kremlin with all the pomp and ceremony of a 1939 night in Nuremberg, including all the flag-waving and cheering you could hope for. Hitler would be so proud, but there perhaps a few more torches next time? For a country that has been on the losing foot for some time in the Ukraine, this was the logical next step in Putin's attempt to stop the bleeding. By bleeding, we don't mean his men, he doesn't give a toss about them, no, the only bleeding he is concerned about is to his power base. He needed to change the narrative and to bolster his own ego, so why not have a rally to get the people who love him fired up and ready for the next phase? The biggest issue for old Putin is that his people are so angry with him about conscription and the mounting losses. Not many people love him, so he literally has to bus in his crowd from state-owned entities where the bosses force the staff to cheer. Like any good Nazi rally, he even had his own Goebbels on hand to get the crowd going by calling for a holy war. Not that God factors very much into Putin's thoughts, at least not the God I pray to. But let's be clear, when the end comes, and it will come, he will be calling to every god he can think of to save him. So why did Putin annex these 4 regions into Russia? We believe the answer is simple: to establish that line in the sand to give some meat to his threats. If he makes all people in Donetsk Russian, and the Ukrainians steamroll in there, well then, they are attacking Russians, and this is simply unacceptable. It's perfectly okay for Russians to attack Ukrainians, however, remember the Ukrainians are the Nazis around here. What's more, he can establish that point where deploying weapons of massive destruction can be justified to his allies. Now obviously this justification is going to be a jittery one, but it just needs to look good with a modicum of logic, in much the same way that the US justified its second invasion of Iraq in its search for WMDs, in our mind no less of a bullshit move. Will the Ukrainians stop on the magical Putin line? Of course not. No matter which side you are standing on, these 4 territories are Ukrainian, and the armed forces have a patriotic duty to liberate them. The offensive through the Kharkov region has recently taken the highly symbolic and important city of Lyman, where the Russians were forced to retreat or risk complete encirclement. Critically though, Lyman is in the Donetsk region of Ukraine, one of those 4, recently declared Russian. So, what now? In response, Ramzan Kadyrov, the head of Chechnya, has called for the use of a low-yield tactical nuke. To quote Putin's chief bully, in my personal opinion, more drastic measures should be taken, right up to the declaration of martial law in the border areas and the use of low-yield nuclear weapons. Interestingly, this comes hot on the heels of his unit of TikTok warriors getting worked over properly in combat. Normally these lads keep their videos for clearly staged operations that involve room clearing in empty buildings and lots of firing into the air. Not this time. Taking casualties is a messy affair and not great for trying to create an aura of invincibility, but it sure does improve your view numbers. The calling for the use of nukes is interesting as it signals an acceptance that the war is going badly. What Ramzan has effectively done is to break with the state-issued bubble that the war is going well. Even this chief lunatic can see that the writing is on the wall. For him there is a different dynamic at play. You see, without the protection of Uncle Vlad, there is a super good chance that his position will be under threat. He too is a dictator, and as we know from history, all dictators have limited shelf lives. He lives and dies with Putin. By calling for nukes, Ramzan has put massive pressure on his boss. You see, by annexing the 4 regions and by making a big song and dance about it, he set the line for the Ukrainians, but he also set it for his allies, and they will expect him to act, especially the ultra-crazy portion. He has given himself no way out at home or abroad, and nothing ages faster than a dictator with no street cred. If he was a normal person, he would wait for the conscription to do its job. He would run a fighting retreat whilst he got his replacements and stores organized, new depots established, and a well-designed defensive line in place. But of course, there is nothing normal about this potato. No, he needs to see a win, and he needs it now. What's more, the Ukrainians are moving so fast, and his army is in such disarray there is zero chance to stop the rout. He is also confronted by the stark reality that with the conscripts hitting the front line far too quickly, his casualties are going to rise, and this will further fuel the discontent and hate for him currently sweeping the country. Dictators need to be adored or at least feel adored. The current angry sentiment must be driving him mad, and it's going to get a lot worse. We believe he will use a nuke. He doesn't want to, but with the screws getting pushed in, it's going to happen. The main point of using the nuke is not just to stop the Ukrainian advance, but also to show his allies that he has the balls to act. Trust us, he has lost a lot of faith amongst his support base, and this will be just the tonic to show them that he means what he says. So, when he drops the nuke, what will the world do? I truly believe the Ukrainians will stop their advance. Zelensky is a kind and generous leader. He won't want to see any more damage of this kind to his country. They will also be consumed with the fallout wrought by this weapon, because you can be sure that Putin will not help. Those recently annexed areas will be forgotten about and will become almost immediately expendable. The rest of the Western world will scream blue murder from the rooftops. They will double their pledges of support. They will fly in their best medical units and nuclear specialists, and the money will flow. They will of course apply more sanctions, for whatever good they are. But will they act militarily? Absolutely not. A small tactical nuke can just as well become a larger intercontinental ballistic missile, and that simply isn't an option. Instead, I firmly believe that the pressure will be applied on Zelensky to sue for peace and to accept the annexation in favor of world stability. In much the same way that the Allies gave away Czechoslovakia to placate Hitler. Unfortunately, there is historical precedent for appeasing mad men with the means to cause massive violence. But will it stop the inevitable end for Putin? No, I think the use of a nuclear weapon in an area that is extremely close to Russia will be a watershed moment for its people. I believe that it will signal the end for Putin. He will be assassinated by one of his Praetorian Guard who eventually got tired of protecting this crazy Caesar, and Russia will attempt to re-enter the world as if newly reborn. Dark Histories believes that there is already an FSB plot to end him. There is historical precedent, as all dictators have enemies at home, and it's not a case of if they act but rather when. Here's looking at you, Count von Stauffenberg. So, brace yourself, it's going to get hot out there.